Well, One America's Kendall Forward caught up with lawmakers from both parties who say they support the U.S. airstrikes in Syria. Here's more from Washington.
What's happening in Syria is a humanitarian disaster. It's the consequence of 8 years of Obama foreign policy failures, of American weakness, of red lines drawn imprudently and then not followed up on. And Bashar Assad is a monster. He has used chemical weapons repeatedly on his own citizens. He has murdered innocent men, women, and children. We are seeing refugees flooding the entire Middle East, fleeing the chaos in Syria. And Syria right now is a puppet state of Russia and Iran. It is a profoundly dangerous circumstance. And so our prayers are certainly with the victims of Assad, who have been murdered by their leader. Our prayers are also with the victims of the ISIS terrorists, the Al-Qaeda terrorists that are ripping Syria apart. And of course, our prayers are with the brave men and women in uniform who carried out this strike last night. Under the Constitution, the authority to declare war is given to Congress. And so I look forward to the President making the case to Congress, making the case to the American people as to what our military path should be going forward. The touchstone for military action should be protecting the vital national security interest of America. It would be profoundly contrary to our national security interests if chemical weapons fell into the hands of ISIS or Al-Qaeda or other radical Islamic terrorists. And that, preventing that from occurring should be a central concern. There is long-standing authority for a commander-in-chief to react to exigent circumstances and to react with immediacy. And there's a difference between a specific strike in response to exigent circumstances and ongoing protracted military conflict. Protracted military conflict requires congressional authorization, but a commander-in-chief has long had the authority to react to a specific circumstance. There are some in Congress who are pushing for very active U.S. military engagement in Syria. I think that would be a mistake. It's incumbent on the commander-in-chief to make the case for the military action, the military plan of action the administration proposes, and Congress will listen to what the commander-in-chief says. I hope both parties will listen with an open mind and assess the arguments as to how best to protect our national security interests. Part of the reason why the Constitution gives that authority to Congress is precisely so that the commander-in-chief will make the case and lay out a plan of action. One of the many failings of the Obama foreign policy is there never was a coherent plan of action for how to proceed in Syria. It's one of the reasons there was such congressional skepticism to what Obama proposed there. And so we need to have this conversation. We need to have a discussion about what the plan of action is and how we're going to keep America safe.
It was the right thing to do. It ought to teach Assad a lesson that he better not use any chemical weapons. He already broke the agreement that he had eliminated all of his chemical weapons. And if he does it again, I think we ought to strike all of the airfields and completely take out all of his airplanes so he doesn't have an air force. If Assad as much blinks that he's going to use chemical weapons again, then we take out his air force. And then we show Russia that what their interest is keeping their base there on the Mediterranean, that you can keep your base, but let's do a peace process. And it's harder because you got all those other proxies in there, including Iran. But ultimately, that's what has to be done.